Hello, MAT students. Again, here is session or part one for week 11, differentiation intro. And I thought there was a different picture. I guess I had it showing up. Sorry if the words are cut off there. So we're talking about differentiation in this session. Of course, this is from The Princess Bride. There's Inigo Montoya. I have no idea what the actual actor's name is. He says, differentiation. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. I believe in the Princess Bride movie, it was oh, what was it that the one guy kept saying? Inconceivable. I think that was it. Um, yeah, I think I messed that up. Anyway, so you do not have to answer this as a discussion question, but I'm just posing this to you as we're starting out for you to think about what is meant by differentiation. How would you explain it to a new teacher? So if a new teacher came into your class and said, "Hey, what's this differentiation stuff I keep hearing about?" A lot of you already have experience as teachers. A lot of you have run into this term, learned about this before. What would you say? What is differentiation? How are we supposed to be using it? So here are a couple of ways to explain it, a couple of analogies that I've heard over the years that I think really work well. This is from our book, Target Teaching. It says you are being taught how to make moussaka. I didn't know what moussaka was. I had to look it up. You have made lasagna once, so you have an idea what the process and end outcome might be. You're relatively pleased. It seems about right for where you are in your culinary odyssey. Graham shakes his head and looks a little daunted. What's moussaka? Didn't he play right wing for Newcastle United? I think this was a book written in England. John is disappointed. He's well past moussaka. That's like a Tuesday dish for him, and he was keen on something more challenging. A typical classroom contains a range of different abilities, different attitudes, and different confidences. If the teacher does not do anything different and teaches to your standard, roughly the middle, what is going to happen to Graham and John? You and the other competent cooks might prosper, but what about the lower and higher ability? Graham might give up if he's not explicitly shown the steps to take or made to feel comfortable in something he's not confident about. Worse, he might start throwing aubergines, I think those are oranges, at John's head, as John seems to be doing it effortlessly. John might simply not bother if he's not had the challenge modeled to him or he's not stretched by the task. He might start throwing aubergines at Graham's head, as he seems to be trying really hard at what he feels is an easy dish to make. In summary, the teacher in this scenario needs to be aware of the following. They need to know their students. This is what moussaka looks like, apparently. I would have just called it lasagna. Their strengths and areas for development, their resilience and emotional competencies. I would say that that's easier in certain classes, depending on how many students you have, depending on the subject you teach, the age that you teach. Know what success is for all students and how they can ensure that students are able to meet these targets. I was just sharing this yesterday in an introductory ed psych class. Grade wise, some students are happy if they get a B plus; they're just overjoyed. Other students cry if they get an A minus because their parents are going to be upset with them. So success can look different for different students. Explore different ways to approach the teaching of whatever it is, like moussaka. Support and challenge all students. The next week it might be steak, which John is not as good at and you excel at. I'm not sure how you cannot be good at steak. He might need more support in this lesson where you might need to be challenged. So as you guys think about that, with cooking as an example, I think it's a good way to look at the different needs of students. Some students know how to do it, some students don't know how to do it, and if you just teach to the middle and don't make any effort to meet the needs of those higher or lower students, a good chance you're going to miss them. Good chance you're going to have some behaviors happening in your classroom. This is a book and also what's it called? Not an analogy, a parable, I believe. That's fairly famous. Never judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree. This has been attributed to Albert Einstein. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And Amos Dolbear, a physicist before Einstein, wrote this parable. And you can click the link here if you'd. Here, I'll click it real quick. We'll go and see the whole parable. So this is hopefully it's still there. Yeah. So an educational allegory, there we go, by Aesop Jr., who was Amos E. Dolbear of Tufts. So here's the story. Really, really interesting story. I think it's a good thing to read through. Go back here though. Basically though, well here, we'll just read through part of it. It says, A long time ago, when the animal creation was being differentiated into swimmers, climbers, flyers, and runners, there was a school for the development of the animals. The theory of the school was that the best animals should be able to do one thing as well as another. If there was an apparent aptitude in a given animal for doing one thing and an apparent inaptitude for doing other things, the time and effort should be spent upon the latter instead of the former. So basically, everyone should be equally good at all things. Um, Nature was not to be trusted. I'm skipping ahead here. In her makeup of individuals, for individuals should be symmetrically developed and similar for their own welfare as for the welfare of the community. No one was allowed to graduate from that school unless he could climb, swim, run, and fly at a certain prescribed rate. So it happened that the time taken by the duck in learning to run the prescribed rate, had so hindered him from swimming that he was scarcely able to swim. In addition, he had been scolded, threatened, punished, and ill-treated in so many ways as to make his life a burden. He left school humiliated, and the ornithorhynchus could beat him either in running or swimming. Indeed, the latter carried off the prize in two departments. The eagle made no headway in climbing to the top of the tree, though he showed he could get there just the same. The performance was counted a demerit as it had not been done in the prescribed way. An abnormal eel with large pectoral fins proved he could run, swim, climb trees, and fly a little. He was made valedictorian. Interesting story. So the eagle made no headway. An abnormal eel was made valedictorian. Had to look up what an ornithorhynchus is. I'll show you a picture in a minute. But it's interesting, right? That in our schools, we have all the different subjects. We want all students to be well-rounded, even in colleges, right? Liberal arts. Well, what if that's not what they're good at? Are we doing them a disservice by asking them, by requiring them to strive to be as good as as everyone else in all things? So ways to differentiate. We can differentiate by outcome, by task, by support, by organization, by resources, and by extension. And the basic three ways we talk about differentiation, this is from Carol Ann Tomlinson, are product, process, and content. Product, the outcome, different expectations for the level or the extent of progress. So depending on the student, what they're capable of, I might accept a certain level of work from one student and not from another. By task, different tasks that cover the same content, giving them options. By support, varying the assistance. By organization, letting them work by themselves, with partners, with groups that we pick out for them, with the teacher. And then for content, access to resources to support learning, additional challengers, whatever, adaptations to what they're learning. So this does take more work for teachers, but it really is just about the only way to solve the problem of how do you teach a group of students where no one is the same, where there is no normal. There may be an average, but most students are a little bit different. Most students have different needs or different abilities. I would say that maybe 80% of the students I saw in my teaching all had about the same basic ability, the same basic needs. I would write my assignments so that about 80% of them, they should be fine. The lower 10% needed additional support. They needed to work with partners. They needed to have some things explained more deeply to them, some steps laid out clearly to them. They needed me to come by and check on them more often, or even to work with me, which I didn't do much in seventh grade. And then the upper 10% needed some kind of a challenge. They needed something to do when they were done. They needed to be challenged to make what they were doing better. Maybe they could help other students who are struggling. That isn't always the best option, but that is one option to help students who are more advanced, to show that they know it and show that they can help someone else. So there are different ways to differentiate. In my mind, a lot of differentiation comes up to giving options for students. That's not always what the case is, but I do think options are a good way. So Carol Ann Tomlinson, very famously, content, process, product. The content, the curriculum, the standards, the concepts, the learning targets, what is being learned. The process, the strategies, how they are doing it, how we're managing them, the environment they're allowed to be in, if they can sit in the back of the room, if they can stand up to work, if they can go work in a group. And then product, how are we assessing what they are doing? Maybe we just do formative assessments for them. Maybe they don't turn in a summative assignment. Maybe they don't take the summative test. Maybe we change the summative test. So how do we make the content, the process, and the product that we're giving them fit their needs so they can have a chance to be successful? Notice that it's not a guarantee of success. It's not equity in the sense that everyone comes out the same. It's equity in the sense of what do they need so that they have a chance, the opportunity to learn just like everyone else is. And really, I think that process and product are the two areas that we tend to differentiate the most. Standards are kind of, they're kind of the same. It doesn't really matter what grade. They're expected to learn at a grade level standard. Unless they're in a special ed class, then you're, dealing with grade levels that are very far below. But in general, we're expecting them all to learn the standards that are put forward by the state that we're in. Learning targets can be different, and again, it depends on the individual students. But generally, we see management strategies and the different types of products they can turn in and submit to be the things that we differentiate. This does remind me of Lev Vygotsky, Russian researcher, passed away when I think he was 37, 38 years old. Some issues with Lev Vygotsky. He didn't believe that parents should be involved in education. He thought religion was old and bad and gone, and it was just the state. He was a dyed-in-the-wool Russian communist, but he talked about the zonal proximal development, right? Giving students an assignment that they can do with adequate support. Not something they can already do, like the story talked about, the guy already knows how to make moussaka. Not something they have no idea and they literally could never do, no matter how much help you gave them, they couldn't do it. But something that they can do if they're stretched. If they have adequate support, they have a more knowledgeable other to help them along, a teacher, a peer, whoever it might be, parents, but they have adequate support. They can get there, but they need help to get there. It's their next step of developing and learning. So it does remind me a lot of that. Let me see. I think this is where, oh, no, okay, somehow I missed the picture. Hang on. There is an ornithorhynchus somewhere in my presentation. Where is my ornithorhynchus? Oh, I don't see my ornithorhynchus. Hang on. I gotta find this dude. Yes, I'm sharing a window. I know that. Okay, and I do need my phone too. Let me go back here and see if I can find Mr. Ornithorhynchus. I was pretty sure he was somewhere in here. Well. This is the general method slides I'm using, and they're very similar to ours, but slightly different. Maybe I put it here. Oh, it's going slow. Goodness, it's going slow. So not subplans. No. Those are last year's. Interesting. Well, I had a picture. Anyway, ornithorhynchus, guys, simply means a platypus. So from this story, the one that won the challenge to climb the tree or whatever to run was a platypus. That's what an ornithorhynchus is. All right, so last part of this, I have a class video here of a class and a teacher doing differentiation. So make sure I've got the sound on, which I think I do. Yes, I do. Okay, here we go.
Look at all these great volunteers. Go ahead. Yes, nice job.
So the impact of differentiation, the students feel successful. They feel supported. They know if something is difficult for them, there's something that's a little more in line with their strengths coming up soon. So it really makes education fun and approachable. I really think it's the most effective way that I have seen to teach.
The vision and the mission of Highlander is to use innovative practice as a social catalyst. We want our kids to be able to do anything any other kid from Providence could do.
We use differentiation all across the curriculum here at Highlander, and especially in the first grade. Although the content is the same, having the stations really allows me to tailor my lessons to each individual group of learners. So how the differentiation looks in my classroom, we start off with a whole group lesson.
So let's get our reading glasses on. Let's get the letter part of our brains activated.
This section of our curriculum, we have been looking at nonfiction texts.
When we're looking at our book today, we're going to be thinking about where we can get information.
And then in the phonics realm, we focused on contractions.
We're taking two words, and what are we sticking them together with?
Apostrophe.
Yes, Karen. Good
And
job.
then we break off into our small groups. So our yellow group is still learning how to do a lot of our literacy things. The green group is doing pretty well, but has a few things to work on still. And our blue group is hitting all the first grade standards and needs to be stretched. So our differentiation kind of takes two forms. The first is by student grouping, and the second is by modality of learning. We have 20 minutes per station, and there are 3 of the stations. The students will rotate through all 3 stations each day.
So our first station for the blue group is the computer station.
The students use a Google form to check in. They'll normally watch a video or carefully observe a photograph and answer some questions about that.
We watched a video about how to grow a seed. We had to type in our favorite part and why.
After they finish that form, they can check out an ebook.
And then you could do this game of reading called Teacher Must Know How to Read.
We're delivering things in a way that is visual, that is auditory, that is individual to the students through the technology.
After that, she rings the bell.
Clean up, switch up, first grade readers.
We switch to the sort station.
Our sort station is more of a physical modality. They're using their bodies, which is so important for first graders. They need to move. Kids are cutting out the words, they're gluing them down.
We had a contrasting game. It's fun because it's all mixed up and you had to find the right pieces. And then after we do that, we do rainbow.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. I just want to point out that, and this is for a younger age, obviously, than what you guys are teaching in adolescent schools. But the idea of having a lower aimed part of the session, a higher aimed part, they are breaking up into stations. You could do this with options on assignments. You could do this with different assignments each day. You could do this with calling a group up or having a group meet over on the side to work with them while the others work more independently or on their own. Notice that it does take preparation. It takes work by the teacher to get things set up ahead of time. So it is, I would say it's more work to set up. Once you have it set up, though, you've got it set up for the next time you do it. And once you have the students trained in how to either rotate or how to work in groups or work by themselves or navigate to the next, whatever the next stage of the assignment is, it can go much faster. So anyway, one way to differentiate instructions to reach all students. So guys, enjoy reading the book, enjoy making up your presentation for your parts, and I will see you in the next session. Bye.